I was an American soldier. My name is Estes. I was born in Herculaneum, Missouri, December 21st, 1917. I grew up in the St. Louis area with my mother, father, and grandmother, and 3 uncles. These were Depression years, rough. I graduated from high school. I took a job loading trucks in a meat packing plant. I was later a foreman in that plant. I was married, had a home, had a wife, had a job, and in a good shape. And along come World War II. I'm in excellent condition. I was an athlete, as all 3 of my uncles were, and was fit to go in the Army. There was no reason why I shouldn't go in the Army. My father was in World War I and World War II. Prior to me going in on World War II, I was inducted at Jefferson Barracks, Missouri in 1942 and sent to Camp Stewart, Georgia, where we trained in the desert, in the swamps, and then we went to the California desert for 6 hot months, May through October. From there we went to Camp Pickett, Virginia. We trained in the swamps in Georgia, we trained in the desert in California, we trained at Camp Edward, Massachusetts for firing range over water. We trained in Camp Kilmer, New Jersey. We went to Camp Shanks, New Jersey. Then we went overseas. It took us 13 days going across the ocean, dodging U-boats. We were on an English tramp steamer, SS Estes Bay of London. They fed us stewed kidneys for my first breakfast. Not good, so we took over the cook kitchen. We landed at Liverpool and were taken to Gillingham, England, where we were billeted in private homes. From Gillingham, we went to Exmouth, where I trained on demolition with the British. We made the mock run at Slapton Sands, England, preparing for the invasion D-Day. As you remember, we lost 749 boys at Slapton Sands when the E-boats, the Germans, got in among us. We trained and debarked on June 5th for the invasion of France. We were told the night before that we'd have 50 tanks on the beach when we landed. Omaha Beach would be bombed, there would be holes all over the beach. We didn't know that the 352nd German infantry was practicing right behind where we landed at Omaha Beach. When we landed, about 7 o'clock, D-Day, was the second wave. Men were floating in the water. Boats were being hit with artillery. Boats were being hit with machine guns. Boats were being hit with rifles. The engineers were the first boys off those boats to clear the way for us, and they did a good job. They took an awful beating on Omaha Beach. We landed. They opened up the ramp on our landing craft, LCT, and my captain and the driver went out in the Jeep and went down in about 100 feet of water. Well, he had to swim in the rest of the way, both of them did. And then our lieutenant ran on the back of the landing craft and made the coxswain bring the boat in closer. We got in close, we got off, and we got onto land, and we're looking probably at 300, 350 yards to the bluff, and we know we got to make the bluff for some protection, get underneath them. By this time, the battleships behind us were firing. They're firing rocket ships. They're firing. Everything is firing overhead. We moved then a little bit closer all the time toward the bluffs. About 10 minutes after we landed, or maybe 15, my medic was blown away. An artillery shell must have hit him, and he was gone. There was no semblance The next man hit was my radio man, who had both legs blown off. I'm a sergeant. I got 12 more men to take care of. What do I do? I had to leave him die. I had to walk away and leave that man die. There were no atheists on the beach that day, that was for sure. We moved as close to the bluffs as we could, and the engineers come along with bulldozers and bulldoze a path up towards St. Laurent-sur-Mer. On that route up, there is a bunker, which our outfit knocked out. The 467th knocked out that bunker. We got up that high, and Private Shelton and I went in this bunker, and I took a Nazi flag from that bunker, stuck it in my battle jacket, and carried it. I don't know how long I carried it, kept it in the battle jacket, but I took it back in 1994, and it's now in the museum there in St. Laurent-sur-Mer. We got up to the top of the hill, and Shelton and I and the rest of the boys looked down on the beach, and it was a mess. I mean, boats blown apart, boats burning, the smell was bad. You could see bodies laying on the sand. You see bodies floating out in the water. They got out there too. They put them off too far out. A lot of the boys dropped. The engineers, the boys with the 105, the heavy artillery, some of them tried to shoot from their landing crafts, and some of them went down. Some of them got hit. Some of them listed to one side, and they had to shove the 105s overboard to keep alive. Some of the landing craft with the LCIs, with the infantry, were hit in the water. Some were hit. Some of our boys on the landing craft, LCTs, were hit. I believe it was a dog company or dog battery. Charlie Walbro was in there, one of my friends, and they got hit and they listed and they turned around to go back to England. They didn't make the land. And then other crafts were let out too far, got stuck on sandbars, and they sit out there in the open water, figuring out what to do, and they finally had a man swim out with a long rope, and he roped them into the shore. Each man went off the landing craft and had to wade in or partly swim into the shore. We got up to right outside St. Laurent-sur-Mer. We moved into an apple orchard, surrounded by hedgerows. Those hedgerows were good and they were bad. They gave us protection, but they also had good place for the Germans to hide their machine gun nests and things such as that. We dug in there. My captain came to me and said that he was in bad shape. I gave him a sleeping bag, and he asked me to put out the guard in this hedgerow. I put out the guard in the apple orchards. I put one man under a big training table that the Germans had been using there, filled with sand, and it had each house pinpointed where it was, and used the steeple to the church. And we did know the next day we realized they did not bomb Omaha Beach the night before. It was not bombed. We told it would be. The 50 tanks that were supposed to come in, 46 of them are still under the English Channel today. So we had no protection from those. And the 352nd German infantry that was above the beach gave us a lot of hell. I put a man under the training table, and a boy by the name of Tressler, Malin Tressler, from Confluence, Pennsylvania, and he got a German coming in that night with a sniper rifle. I heard the shot go off. I crawled up, said, what happened, Tress? And he said, I got one. We crawled up, and I asked him if it was a horse or cow or something like that, and we crawled up, and he got a German rifle with a sniper who was going to shoot our officers the next day. We stayed there that night. Next day, about 3:30, Captain Grisback came to us and said he wanted us to move up to overlooking the beach at Veerville, which was the next town up. That's where the 29th Division went in. We moved to Veerville, and we went into this field, started in the field. Each field was marked Octu Minen, meaning of course mines. And I saw two boys, infantry boys, step on a mine, a bouncing Betsy, which come up and blew about shoulder high. And they were mangled. Well, we got in this field, started in, and I had all the men in front of me probing for mines, down with their hands and knees with bayonets, and I was in the driver's seat, just inching along, inch by inch. Now I'm driving a half-track, which is a half tank and half truck, mounted with 37 millimeter cannon and two 50 caliber machine guns in a turret, which goes round and round. My second squad had four 50 caliber machine guns in a half track in the same type turret. A lot of firepower. We got about halfway into this field at Veerville, and the Germans hit us with artillery. Somebody was spotting for them. The first shell hit on the right of me, the second one on the left, and the third one hit the rear end of the half track, and up it went. I come out of the driver's seat, and this half track was burning. So I'd picked up Sergeant Dottle the day before, on D-Day, because he didn't have anywhere to go. That was the captain's driver, and he asked if he could go with me. And I said yes, if he did everything I did and everything my men did. So he said, "What are we going to do, Sergeant?" I said, "We're going to get the hell out of this field. We can't fight artillery with rifles." So we moved across the field. I led the way, and we moved across the field to the bluff, and down the bluff we went. As we went, more artillery came into the field, and about 5 more boys were hit with artillery, and I dropped them off at the aid station at Veerville, Samir, underneath the bluff. There was a lot of boys there from D-Day and that day that had been injured in trying to fight the Germans at that point. We then walked the entire distance from Veerville to St. Laurent, and I'm not sure the distance is, but we witnessed about 2,800 boys, American boys, dead, laying there. They'd been collected, the tide came in, brought a lot of them in that drowned, and they had canvas on some of them, but the canvas was only short and it didn't cover their boots, so the boots showed. But you see 2,800 American boys laying there. These are the pride of America, heroes, and they're somebody's uncle, somebody's father, somebody's grandfather, and those are American boys, and that hurt. We got back to the captain of St. Laurent and reported what had happened, and he asked me to just police the area for the next couple of days. It'd take them 10 days to get me another half track. We policed the area. We went down through the bunkers, and we went down through the hedgerows where the Germans had dug in good little places to live. I remember going into one, a big hedgerow, had a nice space for table, chinaware,